the cat. So the next step I'm going to do is mixing a blue-green, which I tend to like to mix my blue and my greens together because I don't ever really see a sea that's completely 100% blue or green. It's a nice teal color. It's really beautiful. So I'm going to let that sit. And then I'm going to make my sea completely clear. If your water is not completely clear, that's okay. It's not needed to be completely clear. But you do want to make it wet. Again, this is a wet technique where you wet the water onto the paper first because that will make it easier for you to spread the color on the wet brush, a wet on wet technique. Let me go ahead and finish making this all shiny and wet. Once you can see your paper is completely shiny, you start picking up that sea blue color, and you can see how the crayon, one, stops it from bleeding around on your paper too much. It stops at that crayon line. If you don't push your brush over the line, that wet color doesn't go over where you've put the water, as long as you don't put that color over your brush. You can start to see where those highlights are really standing out. And get myself a little bit more blue and green. You can see where the sea foam at the bottom, you can now see where the white I went over. It's all standing out much more nicely now that you can see that. And get some more color on here because it's very light in color, but you can still see it's wet. I want to add a little bit more color, another layer of that blue green next to the cliff side. So it looks like it's got a little more color variation. You can see where the waves possibly may be going in the distance. A little darker towards the back. There we go. Again, color saturation. It's how rich that single color is. You're not adding white, you're not adding black. It's just how bright that color is. You can see where I've accidentally gone too far over my cliffside here. I can fix that pretty quickly by grabbing myself a piece of paper towel, a little bit of water. Try to wipe that up before it dries. Once it dries, you can't do that trick. But if you make a drip and it's on dry paper, you can clean it up pretty well. Okay, almost done with this. I like a nice, rich blue-green color. It really turns out much nicer, I think. All right, so let me fill in the blanks over here along the sea and sand line. Oops, didn't mean to go that far. Oops, look, wet paper towel. Picked it up really nicely. You can also do interesting effects where you use a dry piece of paper towel, and if you have too much color on something, you can pick it up. I want to put that color right back though. All right, and then lastly, I'm going to clean my brush off and pick up my brown. So all I'm doing to clean my brush is dipping it in water and then wiping that water onto the paper towel. This last one, I'm going to just go with brown over my cliffside. I can wet it down first like this, or I can do just wet on dry paper, and you can see where it operates more like a marker when you do that. It looks like a marker as compared to making it wet first and then dropping it on there. You can see where it kind of spreads out and it's harder to control. Now, the thing with the crayon is you don't want to put your crayon onto wet watercolor. It will make it run and make a mess. It doesn't always stick because the crayon wax does not want to touch the water. They don't mix. It's like mixing salad dressing. Water and oil, they don't mix very well. So let me go ahead and get some more texture in here. Now this is a cliffside, so it can look rough and rocky, and it doesn't have to be smooth or clean. You can like take your brush and tap texture into the picture. Like this, and it looks more rocky. At this point, I'm not actually going to do a lot more with the brown. I'm going to put a little bit on the side where the shadow would be for the lighthouse. Only on the triangle and the rectangle. The square is where you would have your light shining. Oh, I've got a little bit of a red color there. I'm going to put a little bit of, it's dry red. I'm going to see if I can pull that up. Not very well, but I can get a little bit without damaging the paper. It worked. Yay! So, last thing I'm going to use is a little bit of the black. I'm going to use the brush with just a very, very small amount to sort of darken that area. So it's like the shadow you would see. Because the sunlight is here, the shadow is going to be on the opposite side. So if the sun is shining, the shadow is always the other side. I'm going to add on this wet brown. I'm going to add some more rocky shadow to it also because the sunlight is coming from behind the rock. Oh no, I've got a bleeding out here. So I'm just going to pick that up with a piece of paper towel. As I said, watercolor is not the easiest thing to work with, but it can be worked with. So you can see by adding a little bit of brown and black to that wet, kind of tapping it. Don't smash your brushes down. You will damage your brushes if you just smash them and swirl them. I know that it's always tempting, but please don't. It will ruin a very good brush. And these came with very nice brushes. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'll grab a little bit more brown here, mix that in. You can see where the black and the brown is now darker looking. And I'm going to just blend this a little bit more. And I have a tendency to think of having lighthouses as having a little bit more color here. So let me give it a little bit more color on the top of the lighthouse. A little bit more color up on the top. I'm going to clean this off. Now, actually, if I'd wanted to, I probably could have used my crayon to make a red stripe. Once this is dry, you could even maybe consider drawing a beach ball in the corner, maybe a shovel or a sand castle. There's all sorts of little tricks you can do to make it look like it's got more activity happening. Maybe there's something happening at the beach as compared to just an empty beach with a lighthouse. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of red to my lighthouse because sometimes they have lighthouses with red lines on them so that way they're easier for the ships to see. And let's do one more right there at the bottom of that. All right, there we go. And that is our sunset. Again, you can see a little bleed. That is our sunset picture. I'm going to clean off the brush, pick up a little bit of orange just to tap that back in there. You can see how this is, again, mistakes are made. Even professionals, which I don't consider myself, but even professionals will make mistakes. It happens. And we do our best to make sure we can hide them. There you go. This is our Seascape Sunset Crayon Watercolor Resist. Thank you.